I'm Adam Hunt. I'm lead product manager for the Magento Marketplace product. I've been at Magento for about a year and 2 months now, really enjoying it. And today we're going to talk about the marketplace. So this product just launched fairly recently, actually at Imagine in early April in Las Vegas. This is our app store, if you will, for extensions and themes that extend the Magento platform. And you can find paid extensions, you can find free extensions. It's a place for our developers to upload their products and services, and for our merchants and our solutions partners to find those services and incorporate them into the e-commerce sites that they build on the Magento platform. So first, I want to introduce a new member of the team, Bhavin Arwal. He's just joined as the head of the Magento Marketplace. He comes to us from Intuit and has a lot of experience leading their app store. So I'll let Bhavin introduce himself and say some words about the product.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Really excited to be here. He said he's been here a year and 2 months. I've been here 2 weeks with Magento. Joined Magento from Intuit, where I had the opportunity to build and scale their developer platform and the App Store, and did a lot of other cool stuff there. Very excited with the vision that we have here. Let's talk about Marketplace and the official extension store for Magento, as we call it here, and talk about how are we planning to accelerate it. And if you want to talk about Magento, you have to talk about the community that's associated with Magento. There are 3 pillars, as I see it, right? People who are building extensions on Magento, people who are buying, and Magento team. They're curators. They're ensuring the quality and whatnot. And so what I want to walk you through quickly today is the vision that we have about ensuring the best-in-class quality across all of these 3 areas. The investment that we want to do, the processes that we want to set up, and the platform we want to build around all of these areas to get us to the scale that we want to get to. So I'm going to start with the builder side. We want to work with, before I get onto all of this, can I have a show of hands of people who have built extensions? Awesome. And people who have been with Magento platform for longer than 5 years. Thank you, this is helpful. So we want to basically, there are a lot of new developers starting. There are existing developers who are trying to build new things. We want to make it very clear that here's the opportunity, here's the ROI that you can expect by deciding to invest on this platform. We want to give you build recommendations. We want to share, in fact, later in this presentation, Adam is going to share with you guys what are the categories in which we are expecting community to build the extensions. And I think that awareness goes a long way, because if you had the information on what's core for Magento and what are the features we are going to build with and what are the categories in which we are going to expect you guys to come up with new cool ideas and build those extensions, I think it goes a long way. So we want to do that. We want to give you tools and resources, and we want approval process to be without any surprises. The guys who raised their hands, you've all gone through, if you have your extensions in the marketplace, gone through the approval processes. And it could be bumpy the way it is right now. And so you'll hear some updates on things that we are doing there. But basically, the idea there is we list out everything in most simple format, that these are the things we are going to check. So before you submit, you have a very clear idea. And we have some tools and resources. We are trying to automate the checks as much as possible. So we want to get to those scenarios where people submit, they go through the approval process. If they read the checklist in advance, the small marketing check and you're live, there's no other hassle that you're dealing with. We want to get there. Once you're live, we want to help you with demand gen. So I know that we are doing some email circulation and whatnot, but think of this as every category having a featured list, and if you are a particular category, getting part of that featured circulation, whether it's in the email or on the Marketplace website, that will mean a lot. And we want to start showing you much more extensively how your extensions are doing. what's the funnel how discoverable they are today, how many people are showing up on it, what's the download rate, what's your total conversion rate, how can you improve it? So you'll hear a lot in the time to come from here on out, what are we doing across all of these areas. We are going to cover some of this in the later slides. Moving on to the buyer side, I think we have a site, we have a store. It works, it's very functional. My personal observation is that we can do much better, and building that delightful storefront experience for the people who are buying, for them to understand, what this extension's for and what can it do for them. It needs to be very simple and very appealing. It's a buying process, and it needs to look 2016 and beyond. So we're going to be very focused on that. Personalized discovery through two different ways. One is, whenever they are logged in, wherever they are logged in, including the admin panel of Magento, we want to show people contextual recommendation on if this is what you're looking at, that's what you should be trying out. B, we want to work with community, all of you guys and others, to understand how can people on the store self-identify themselves, say, I'm part of that industry, or those are the categories I'm looking for the extensions. When they do that, show them the best-in-class extensions that we have. We don't do these things today. We really want to get to that. Next point there being the curated collections. What we want to do is we want to create the list of different extensions in a way that it makes most sense for certain industries. So if you are fashion, or if you are pick any industry, what would you do after you switch to Magento from some other platform, or you're trying out a brand new store, you just launched it on Magento? What is the next thing you should be doing? We want to solve these questions for people without them hunting for the answers. So we don't want them to be searching all the time. We want to basically ask them, what phase are you at? We want to tell them that this is what you should be looking at. That's another thing. Reviews and ratings. So I think this is going to be the differentiator for people who are successful versus not on Marketplace. I think we don't have that many policies or recommendations around reviews and ratings, but every time somebody downloads the extension, right? You guys all have software, and you have your own channels, and there's always user-generated content that's deciding the fate of the adoption of that particular software. And the reality of the situation is, when you have 10,000 successful users, they don't all write good reviews. But you have 2 dissatisfied users, they're going to go and write those bad reviews. And I see people smiling at this point in the room. Yeah, it has happened to pretty much everyone sitting here. So how can we make sure that those satisfied customers are actually going back? How can we incentivize them, not in a literal way, but bring them more part of the community and invite them to write reviews for you guys? I'm going to look at that. We need to be able to allow all the merchants to try the extensions that you guys are building without directly trying them on the store. Some sort of sandbox environment where they download the extension, there is some sample data loaded already in that, and they just upload and see what's going to be like. We want to do that. And last but not the least, we want to get to the point where when those merchants are logged in and they have used some extensions and they have not used the others, we want to give them recommendations that, hey, there's another version of it, costs you probably a little bit more, you should consider upgrading to that version of the extension. Or, if you're using this, it makes sense, this is complementing to the ones that you're using, you should probably give the other one a shot as well. So we want to get to that point. And for us, people who are trying to ensure the quality of the marketplace, we want to basically focus on the design excellence. We want to get to the point where you look out there in the industry and you look at any other marketplace where people are trying to buy different apps and extensions, you could open marketplace.magento.com and be proud to say that's how it should be done. It's probably best in the class. We want to increase awareness about what it takes to be successful on marketplace.magento.com. I think people who are successful today, they have figured it out with trial and error. There are people who are, I was having a conversation earlier today, people who are really, really successful on Connect platform. They've sent a lot of reputation in terms of SEO into those listings. How can we make sure that they're successful when they move over to Marketplace as well? We want to make sure that those best practices and tips and tricks shared with all of you. And we want to optimize processes. So whether it's approval process or whether it's a process of you submitting a ticket to us when you're stuck building an extension, we want to make sure that they're very streamlined and there are known SLAs for us getting back to you on all of those processes. And there are parts that can be automated, they are automated. Last but not the least, we want to focus on support and engagement. So some of you guys are already part of this developer council that we have started. If you're not, if you would like to join the conversation, I plan to always be on those calls. I don't know the frequency right now. Probably we do it once a month. But reach out to us and feel free to be part of that developer council that we have started. It's an open Q&A, and it's basically a forum, very informal, where you get to speak your mind, share your ideas, and we get to ask you questions about stuff that's top our mind. So want to focus on that. Insights and billing. That's an area that I wish we were light years ahead of where we are right now, and it's definitely one of the top priority. We want to get there where we have an automated billing solution to everything that we have in terms of financial arrangement on Marketplace, and it's very streamlined and it's very transparent process, and so that's something that we are trying to get to as well. And then extension quality program. I guess most of you have heard about it. Later, in about one slide or so, I'm going to walk you through the vision that we have for that program. But the bottom line is, we have a huge community. There are going to be a lot of people wanting to be lot of extensions on Marketplace. That's okay. The focus that we want to have is on extreme quality. And I think you all know, I think this is not the first marketplace ever being built up. There are a lot of other marketplaces, and Apple being one, very relevant example. That level of success, if Apple writes those billions of dollars of checks, every year to the developer community they have, and if we want to be in a situation where we are trying to make the developer, which is that much immensely successful, we have to be, and we need your help in doing that, but we have to be supremely focused on quality. And so we have a vision there. I'll share that with you in a second. But you sum all that together, the vision that we want to have for Marketplace is that we make discovery, purchase, and use of high-quality Magento extensions a very delightful experience for Magento customers, whether they are the actual merchants or the SIs putting these things together for the merchant. Before I move on, let me just take 30 seconds to tell you, this is where we are starting. This is not the end state vision for Marketplace. This is where we are kind of crawling, not even walking yet. If I share my thoughts about what I think we could be, there's a lot more to come beyond just the extension. Next in the list, top of my mind is themes. We don't have as many themes for Magento 2 right now. I mean, I can find very few on Marketplace. And I was in my first developer council session a week ago, and I was asked, there are so many websites out there where there are hundreds of themes for Magento, but obviously they're not high quality. And I'm actually fine if we just end up having 5 at the end of the year, but the ones that we want on the platform that are device agnostic, they know how to convert, they are customizable, they're not cookie cutter, they don't just allow you to change the colors with the CSS, but let you do much more. And they just look pretty sleek. right? And that's what we want. We want people to adapt to that. So I'm fine with 5, but we really need to have high quality themes. And if you guys have ideas around it, if you guys have suggestions around it, I'm all ears. I really want to know. Next in the queue is going to be, we want to be able to sell our own software. Everything that we have, that we sell, we want to make it self-service. We want to probably just sell it in the marketplace. You can come there, you can download the enterprise edition, whatever it is that Magento sells. It should be, online buying experience that we should be able to build for that. People looking for solution partners, people looking for SIs. They're trying to build things. They should be able to come to marketplace and say, compare the offerings there and say, who can I go after? Who can I talk to? We should be able to, offer services. And last but not the least, I've heard some comments and I've seen some email threads about, us selling swags, Magento swags on Marketplace. And I think that's quite doable. I think we should just put up a store and let everyone buy all the Magento branded stuff. So, and then some more. But I'll pause here. Point being, this is where we are starting. There's just a lot that we want to accomplish in this journey. And lastly, let me spend 1 minute on the context of the vision that we want to put together for the extension quality program. So number one, there's going to be basically a lot of people who would want to be on the marketplace. We want to, because we want to maintain high quality, there's always going to be a queue for approval. We want to prioritize, value instead of just basically having first come, first serve. We want to encourage the whole community to do some research. Look at the gaps we have. Brainstorm with us as to if you did that extension, would that solve certain problems that Magento is seeing in that particular industry? And we'll be very proactive about, like we are going to do today, about sharing the stuff, that's informative for you guys to know where are we expecting extensions to be built. So we want to do that. We want to do end-to-end automation of our approval processes, combine that with the advanced checklist that we share with you. So the checklist should basically be telling you everything that we are going to check as part of the automation. And I think that can solve a lot of problems together. One of the biggest thing I think that you should take away today is this partnership that we are going to do with Veracode, and you will hear more details from our teams in the formal communication. But this is going to basically articulate our focus on the quality by making sure that the extensions that are going out in Marketplace are super secure. And we all hear in the news, not even big brands are untouchable anymore when it comes to security. So we want to make sure that people who are buying from us, from our Marketplace, they have a lot of peace of mind when it comes to, is it secure? If I upgrade that extension, is it going to be okay for my store? And this will, honestly, if you ask me, this will open up the opportunity for the small extension developers to be considered for the big guys who are big merchants, because they will know that this has been vetted by security. And so we are going to do it at no cost to anyone in the developer community. It's going to be, we are going to bear the cost, and we are going to basically let you go through this security checkpoint process. And it's going to be super transparent again. You will know what's going to be checked as part of that process. And last but not the least, I think, this is 2016. Videos are very common. And I think in order to increase the confidence of people about getting the extensions and trying them out, I think one thing that we are going to start encouraging everyone to do is just record the video for your listing. Show people what the experience is going to be once they start using your extension. Now, I don't mean that you spend $3,000 doing that, or pounds. We are in London. But we have open source tools. We can give you guys guidelines as to have proper lighting, or whatever it is, we can publish that. But if you guys started doing that, and if we change the layout, which we plan to for the extension details page, and video was the most prominent thing on that page, and people kind of just saw through it, you speaking about your extension and demoing it to everybody, it will go a long way in conversion. And so that's something that we want to start recommending as a standard practice. But all in all, here's the takeaway that I want you guys to have from the session today. We are going to turn up the investment and all the prioritization stuff that I mentioned to you before. We're going to turn up the dial quite a bit on this. If things go as per plan, we have a lot of people making sure they do. A year from now, people who are really serious about running e-commerce business, they will look at marketplace.magento.com as the only source of getting extensions on top of their Magento installation. And I know that switch from the Connect to Marketplace, you guys have probably a lot of questions. Feel free to reach out to me, my team, in the conference today or later on over the call. But we are here to make sure that there is a smooth transition. At the same time, there's no two-way about it, that this is going to be a high-quality extension store for Magento, where things are vetted with security, things are, there are videos, and there's, getting listed on the store is not that complicated anymore. So that's where we are headed. With that, I'm going to hand it over back to Adam to share some more details about this program, our roadmap, as well as a short walkthrough of what does it take to be successful on Marketplace. I'll bring Adam back. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, so that was the vision for the quality program. Let's get into a little more detail about how it works. So we've broken this out into two different levels. So level one, we informally refer to it as our basic check. This is the quality review process that all submissions to the marketplace will go through. It consists of three different aspects. So first, there's a business review, and this is an opportunity for us to learn about who you are as a business, what do you plan on submitting in terms of a product. Of course, we want unique extensions. We're not looking for a whole marketplace of things that are the same or that copycat things that we already have. So we're looking for interesting things that will add new value to this selection. Presuming you pass that, then you go on to a technical review. So here you would be submitting your code, and we do some of those technical checks that Bhavin mentioned. So for Magento 2, there's a composer requirement, and so there's a package validation that occurs. There's also a plagiarism scan, so all code is checked against existing code that we have in our inventory, as well as the Magento code base, to make sure that you're not doing any kind of plagiarism. We also check against Magento coding standards. Those are based on PHP and Zen coding framework. And then finally, we do a security, like an antivirus malware scan. So if you pass that, then you go on to a marketing review. So this is where you're actually creating your listing that you will see in the marketplace. So here, this is making sure that you've passed our style guidelines, that your brand and your logo usage are appropriate, that you are appropriately describing your product. And once you've passed that, now your listing is live on the site. Level 2 is an additional, we sort of think of it as the gold standard in quality. This is required of our Magento partners, the technology partners. And this is administered by an internal team with a lot of expertise in reviewing code and extreme knowledge of the Magento code base. So here we do an in-depth review of your documentation. We look at your use cases. We make sure that functionally you check out against what you say your app does, your extension does. And then we do a peer review, again, on the coding standards, going even deeper. And finally, we do the thorough security review. So this is Veracode and other things like this to check for things like cross-site scripting or SQL injections. So once you've passed level 2, I'll talk about this a little bit more, but we're basically going to introduce a distinction, a top quality badge for those listings, and there'll be special promotion and search filters, et cetera, that highlight passage of that level 2. So getting to the point where we've gotten has required a big investment by Magento, and we now have a great team in place where we have an operations and a software team. So a couple of things that this has enabled us to do. So we have a whole new UI, very different than the Connect interface, a new search experience, a checkout experience. You can actually buy extensions now on our store. So this required an investment from us in the software development team. I'm going to go visit them tomorrow in Kiev. And they're enjoying the new project and digging in deep. So next, we actually also build up a business and a technical operations team. So this supports the extension submission process, and then questions that come in about listings. So this team has really allowed us to do those in-depth quality checks that we mentioned, making sure that you're passing the functional performance and security reviews. And then finally, marketing spend. So we have started to drive, and we will continue to drive traffic to the site, marketplace.magento.com. So we've already started email marketing and social media campaigns, et cetera. We'll continue to ramp that up. So that allows us to do great demand gen activities to this curated set of inventory. Couple updates on what we've just been doing the last 2 months since we launched. So we've continued to focus on driving the inventory up. We started with 155 extensions. We're now at 254. So it's actually a most recent number that's 60% more than we started with. So the drive to get all of those apps that are necessary for people to feel confident that they can migrate to the Magento 2 platform continues. We've also updated and refreshed the coding standards. So we did a review of all of the coding standards that we were using in the previous check that I mentioned, and we've actually now published that online and sent it to GitHub repository. So you can go right now and check it out and do the review in advance of actually submitting, and that'll hopefully get you through the submission process faster. So we've also improved the search experience. We just integrated Celebros, the premier search partner for Magento, and we will continue now in the next couple of weeks to refine the performance of the search and also make use of capabilities that they have in terms of data mining and natural language processing. I think this will really be cool from not just the improving the search perspective, but also allowing for new opportunities for promotions and landing pages, et cetera, that can be built pretty easily using their technology. We've also launched a series of success stories for our developers, and we'll continue to do more of this and do marketing around developers. We've done top 10 tips, we've done top extensions, et cetera. Those are driving good traffic to the site and to listings. And then Bob had mentioned the developer council. So we're trying to set up a means of basically getting your feedback. And one of the things we did was create an advisory board, if you will. It's a council. Right now it consists of developers. We could see expanding that maybe and doing a set that would involve merchants or solutions partners. The idea is having a rotated group of folks that we have an honest conversation with, get your feedback, and we've already started to act on that feedback, and it's affected some of our communications and our product roadmap. Developer notifications, so we're doing advanced developer notifications. This is launching soon around purchases and support services if they were purchased and refund requests. So just looking a little bit more in the coming soon, for next month or so. So we're going to be migrating Magento 1 extensions from Connect and opening up Marketplace for submissions of Magento 1 extensions, and then of course the ability to purchase those through our checkout flow. We will be adding those enhanced security and vulnerability scans through Veracode, and the top quality badge for those that pass the level 2 program. That's in line with what you might have heard yesterday in the partner program, so changes that are coming in that July timeframe. Also updating the category structure so it's in line with e-commerce expectations. So in terms of the submission process, we are trying to do a lot of communication, put a lot of information out there. So we have the whole technical review process and the marketing review process explained, and these slides are available afterward, and the links will direct you to those locations. And then just a note on, so Magento 2 extensions are the submission process is going to be different than Magento 1 extensions. So with Magento 2 platform, it makes use of Composer. So there are certain requirements for that in terms of how the package, the zip file has to be structured. And we have information about that available. We also have a self-check on the package validation. That's also in the GitHub repository, so you can go through that in advance of submitting your code. And then we are encouraging folks now to check out the 2.1 release candidate, which is available, so that you can have an advance notice on updating your extension, making it compatible for the 2.1 release. So let's walk through the flow of the product, first focusing on the developer submission process. So first step would be create a profile, company profile. A couple things I'll mention here. So for a Magento 2 extension, there is a requirement to have a vendor name. That's a new requirement versus Magento 1, and that has to be in lowercase and no spaces. And we are creating a video. I know these are some micro suggestions, and we're creating a video that we're launching soon that actually walks through the entire registration and upload process. That'll also be available in those helpful tip areas. So you'll also do things like specify your company address, and once you've done things like that, you have now created a profile on our site. You're ready to upload your products. So you go to My Products, you add an extension. This is where you first upload your code, and we now have another way of uploading code for Magento 2 where you can actually do shared packages. So that's an interesting thing to learn about. It actually allows you to do cool things in terms of setting dependencies. So if you plan on having multiple packages, multiple products, you can create scenarios where you can say, you need to buy product number 1 before you can use product number 2. Pretty cool stuff. Encourage you to check that out more. Now, once you have gone through a technical review, you will go through a process where you submit details that would end up appearing on that product details page. So things like the screenshots, the YouTube link, a short description, a long description of your product, what platforms you're compatible with, et cetera. So the product details page becomes basically your listing, your way of marketing yourself in our store. From the merchant perspective, so they would first start at our homepage, marketplace.magento.com. And here's where we would have those curated inventory selections that Bhavin mentioned. Different ways of showcasing inventory to our customers. You can do a search or browse and find your way to one of those product detail pages. And here's where you would now, if you click on the buy button, so we will have, I should say, 3 types of inventory in the store. So there are the items that are truly free, where you check it out and you purchase it, but you can download it instantly, install it. There are the items that are paid. So here you will go through a checkout process using a gateway that we've integrated. You can pay through credit cards, you can pay through PayPal. And then there's also items that are free, but they connect to a third-party software as a service or a third-party platform where you will actually, to use that extension, so Celebros, our search engine is an example, it's a free connector in the marketplace, but then to actually turn the service on, you go to Celebros, create an account, and now you can do a data exchange between your Magento instance and your Celebros account. So once you've purchased items, you'll be able to download them, find them from the purchase history page, and you can install them through our GUI or you can install them through the command line. So installation process. So as I said, there are 2 ways of, let's just focus on Magento 2 extensions for now. There are 2 ways of installing extensions. One would be through the command line interface. A lot of solutions partners are doing that now. We expect that to continue. Would recommend, if you haven't tried out installing extension through our user interface through the Magento 2 platform, you give it a try. I think you'll like it, and we are continuing to improve it and make it even more streamlined. So the first step you're going to do is you authenticate your Magento instance with the Magento corporate repository. It's a one-time authentication, and you get keys from your marketplace account in order to make that happen. So that first slide is showing you how to do that authentication process. Once you've done that authentication, then there is a sort of a system run through. We do a backup process, and you will then find all of the extensions that you purchased available for installation. Click on the appropriate step to install, and now these extensions are available, and you will see them in your Magento admin panel. Pretty quick, pretty simple, pretty safe process for installing extensions and making sure that you don't have conflicts among the extensions that you've installed. Looking at our inventory, so we have 254 extensions right now in the store. It's a very good selection, and we're very happy with what we have. We continue to build on that. There are opportunities, a lot of opportunities right now to still add new extensions and new categories. And so here are some of the suggestions that we're offering as different categories where we would love to increase our supply. So payments and tax, point of service, multi-channel, customer service and live chat, PIM, product information management, and B2B extensions and themes, as Bob had mentioned. On the B2B extensions, that's a module that's going to be coming soon on the Magento 2 platform for EE, and want to make sure that if you're going to develop extensions for that platform, that you would contact us, and that email is the right way to do that, and then we'll follow up with you and have a longer conversation about what kind of extension you plan to build. There's a white space there that we would like to fill with extensions, but would like to talk to you more about that before you get started. Just looking at the roadmap, so grouping this kind of following Bhavan's structure of the buyer experience, the builder experience, and then the platform, the curators, that's us. So the buyer experience, a couple of things that we're going to try to tackle here. We want to, so any buyer, any customer that's going to be purchasing, we will now have information about what you've purchased. And we can use that actually to serve up sort of suggestions about, hey, if you're on this platform and you've already purchased these extensions, these are ones that we know are going to be compatible with what you've purchased and potentially installed. So we're going to leverage information about your profile to give suggested recommendations on what would work and what you might want to purchase next. Agency accounts, so this is the concept of systems integrators that build a site on behalf of a merchant and then want to transfer ownership to that merchant eventually. So we'll work on a way to do that very smoothly through our interface. Staging and sandbox, so a try before you buy feature. An ability to basically create a store environment and then run an extension in that environment so you can see exactly what it's going to do, how it'll operate. Wish list will be your buyers or customers giving their suggestions on things they'd like to see, as well as not just extensions, but also some of those other services that Bhavan mentioned, some things that are complementary to the products that we have in the store. On the builder side, we are really focused for those extensions that are pure code on how we make sure that we don't have unauthorized redistribution of that code by people that haven't actually purchased it from you. So that's something we're very focused on. We're going to implement a couple ways of sharing information with you so you feel more secure about that. Standalone services, so adding things that are not just extensions, adding things that are complementary services, and potentially support services, et cetera. This is definitely an area where I think we're going to have a conversation and we want to get your input on how to do this, what kinds of services you're interested in, what kinds of services you use right now. Good place to have a conversation there. Hierarchical account management is the ability, so let's say you have, you're extension provider and you have someone who does the technical aspect of building the code. Well, maybe that's the right person to upload the code and be focused on your process, on the process when you're in that stage of the process. But then when you get to the marketing, you want to swap out and have somebody from your marketing team actually do the marketing description. So it's just a way to essentially create roles and responsibilities within your account to make that an easy thing to do. Currency exchange, so right now we are paying out to developers for their sales in US dollars, and we want to expand that so that we can actually pay out in your local currency and you wouldn't have to pay for the exchange fee. On the platform side, upgrade policy is it's going to be in line with the Magento 2 policy there, and essentially patches and minor upgrades would be free, major upgrades would be for a price. Extension quality program, so we will continue to do, this kind of goes to the slide, the vision that Bhavan mentioned about trying to automate more, trying to make this a more streamlined process, and using tools and systems and people and doing really constant improvement along the way. Bundling and promotions are we're focusing on ways that we can give things like starter packs or grow your business or logical ways of grouping extensions to customers so that they have an idea of what they're getting, and it helps with that. Helps a newbie, for example, who's starting out and building a Magento site, figure out, okay, well, what do I need to complement the Magento platform? What are some suggestions? In-app experience. So we're going to work with the Magento 2 team here to actually make it easier to find and purchase extensions through the Magento 2 interface. Support system is we're cognizant of there's a lot of support inquiries coming in, and coming up with the best system for essentially routing inquiries either to ourselves to handle them, like refund requests, or for just general support questions that are better directed to the extension provider themselves. And we don't have a way of doing recurring payments right now, so we're going to work on adding that. So how do you be successful on the marketplace? Couple quick tips. So first, survey the landscape. Do some searches on our site. Look across. Do some Google searches. Main point here is that we don't want a store full of copycat stuff, and we are really focused on curating our inventory. So we are looking for new creative ideas that extend the platform, and be original is basically the message there. Be relevant, so solve business problems, create efficiencies. Look at the roadmap for where Magento is going and try to fill in those white space areas. Know your audience, so sometimes you're dealing with a customer that's technical, sometimes they're more of a business type of person, so it's important to provide the technical details for that technical person, the business details for the business person. So give the business benefits, give the appropriate technical documentation that supports it as well. Think about pricing. So this is a curated set of inventory. This is not the overwhelming 9,000 extensions that were on Connect. So it's a different environment, and I think it would be incumbent upon someone to think about how you price given that different set of inventory that we're dealing with. Promote your success, so give referrals, give testimonials, talk about success stories and customers that liked what you did. Over-inform. We have a lot of ways of giving information. So we mentioned adding screenshots, adding YouTube links, giving videos that talk about how you actually install and configure, technical documentation, use cases. Give as much information as you can. There are other sites out there that do a great job, I think, of showing people exactly how to install through the command line. I would like that type of information on the marketplace for any of our extensions as well. Foster open communication, so provide your support information, respond to reviews that you get, et cetera. Validate your code, so we have these self-checks. We have the package validation self-check for Magento 2, make sure you're in line with our composer requirements. We've just added this coding standards check. So these are in our GitHub repository. Encourage you to check those out. Doing more on your own in advance will actually get you through the process faster of the technical review. Mentioned a lot of resources, so these are the links. Slide presentation is going to be available afterward. Encourage you to check all this out. We have spent a lot of time doing a very in-depth user guide, I will point out. So it actually goes through the whole UI, explains in very good detail, very clear detail, where you go, what you do at each step in the process, and a lot of frequently asked questions. And just kind of coming back to why we're here. So one thing I think is just totally cool about this product is that to me it taps into this great strength of Magento, which is the community of folks that are building extensions, folks that are using extensions, folks that are offering help with creating Magento installations. I think this product does a great job of recognizing and being inclusive and trying to promote what you all are doing. And that's sort of where we measure success. Are we effectively serving and promoting your work? Are we offering you a business boost? Hopefully we are. We aim to, both for those who are providing the extensions and those who are using them. And working to making this a definitive, trusted store where you can find quality extensions. So that's the end of the presentation. And now we wanted to have a little Q&A with Christoph Ringleff. He's a longtime Magento developer. He goes under the name Fumon. So he has a few extensions right now in the store. And we wanted to ask you a few questions about your experience so far, Christoph. So can you come join us? So first, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and your business.
Sure. So
Please.
after that introduction, I'll try to keep it short, but I'll give you a brief history lesson of why I'm basically here. So back in 2008, Magento 1 was just starting out, and I myself was dabbling with a few open source extensions, and one of them basically went viral, and that's Firmin Speedster. And yeah, that pretty much helped get my name out there, and everything spiraled onwards from that. So fast forward to today, and we're, I think, more than 150,000 downloads of my extensions to date. And on those early beginnings, I've added with releasing a few more extensions. Today, I think roughly 20 plus M1 and M2 extensions. Still a few free ones in there, and they're all focused on basically making a merchant's life easier by saving time and therefore money. I'm based in New Zealand, and that's probably as far away as you can be from major markets like the UK. So it still blows my mind that my code is being used around the world. And at last count, we have customers in 70 different countries around the world. So that's the brief rundown.
Very cool. So you were one of the first folks that we thought to reach out to when we were building this new marketplace, and we definitely wanted you to be included, and you were eager, I think, to be included, or at least inquisitive and interested, right? So we just would love to hear sort of about what your experience has been working with our team and working with the product so far.
Sure. So I guess why I was keen to be involved from the beginning was it worked for me being early for M1. So I figured being early with M2 would also be beneficial for myself. And yeah, working with the market team has been a really great experience so far. So you've been very receptive to feedback. So thank you very much for that.
Good to hear.
Obviously, well, you're still early, so I'll reserve my judgment. But yeah, anytime you change business models, there's a few discussions to be had, and we're still working through a few processes, but I think we're overall on a really good way. And one example of the marketplace listening is really the Marketplace Council, where I've been involved quite a bit since the inception at Magento Imagine just a couple of months ago. They're representing both Firmin and also the Magento Extension Developers Network, which is a forum that I've founded to bring together like-minded developers just to discuss all these topics that come up and sort of solidify a few of our opinions so we can communicate with Magento quite a bit more easily.
Yeah. That collaboration is what's going to help us get everything right. So glad to hear.
Yeah. As I said, it's early days, but I think sort of we're working through it, and I'm really hopeful that looking forward to what we can achieve with M2 and the marketplace.
Awesome.
Yeah, the Extension Developers Network is a pretty cool thing, and I think it's your concept, right?
It was one of those ideas, but it certainly it started gelling well when sort of connected with a few other folks that have been around and sort of that I look up to, and I see they doing great work, especially looking after the merchants. I think that's probably the defining factor of the people that are part of the network. They really deeply care about the merchant and the merchant experience and the support. So bring those people together that are like-minded, as I said, that's the beginning of it all, and everything else stems from that.
Cool, yeah. So you saw a lot about the quality review process that we're doing, the emphasis on improving the inventory, the curation. You've been through that process. So what was it actually like? Because it might seem a little imposing to someone who hasn't gone through the process yet.
Sure. So for me, it's great to see that quality is becoming such a hallmark for the new marketplace. I myself, I'm a really big fan of good practice extension development. So seeing Marketplace lead the way in upping the quality compared to what we previously had on Connect, that's really tweaking it where it needs to be. And there's really no space for copycat, poorly supported extensions, or just nothing new to bring to the table. So that is being addressed, I think, it's really an awesome thing to see. And again, I mentioned Connect before. that you guys are taking over some of that quality assessment. I think that will be really, really valuable for merchants and developers alike, simply because on the old Connect, it was really hard to tell what is good quality and what is not. And even merchants, they would have to buy the extension, and even then they wouldn't have an idea if they bought something that's good, reasonable, or absolutely rubbish. They would have had to employ a Magento expert even to guide them in their assessment of what they've bought. So moving this forward, I think is a really good step. And having the, you talk about level 1 and level 2, so I'll give you my assessment of what I see with level 1 and level 2. Level 1, I think it's really good that Magento sets a baseline, and that really is what it is. As in, you have to jump across this baseline. Where this baseline is, you've sort of given some indications, and I think some more tweaks might be needed over time. But that's sort of the first baseline, and if you're in the marketplace, a merchant can trust that you've come across this baseline, whereas with Connect, well, you've managed to upload an extension and make a listing. That was the baseline. But with a new marketplace, there's actually people looking at what you're submitting, making sure that it's reasonable. And the security and automated checks, I think that's really awesome stuff that a merchant can say, well, if it comes from Marketplace, that's the minimum that it has gone through. And it's a lot more intense than it ever was, as in Connect was easy to get in, and we can see it with the numbers. There's lots of people on there. But with the new Marketplace, it will be less, but simply because it's a curated process. So I do think focusing on quality is a good thing there. Moving on to, well, level 1, the big part for me is it includes the plagiarism check, and that's awesome for people like us. We work hard, but if someone comes and takes our code and tries to redistribute it on Marketplace, it simply is not possible anymore, whereas in the past we would have relied on either finding it through accident, or maybe another client of us telling us, maybe you want to look here, someone is selling something that looks very similar to what you're doing. So having this automated and this taken care of is awesome for us. Moving on to level 2, and that's really where things are getting interesting. I've been also involved from that quite in the beginning, as in there was a pilot program which was even in the M1 area. So one of my first extensions was, I think, just after last year's Imagine, we went through their process for one M1 extension. And from then, now I have a few more M2 extensions which have all gone through that process. And it's rigorous, it's intense. Level 2 is not given out lightly, as in they assign you a project manager who goes through the process with you. And there's an ECG team member who will review your code. It's code review. Goes through it line by line. You talk about architecture. They highlight a few things where they might say, are you sure you want to do it this way? Can we improve it in this area? So I would say if you go through it in the first trial, you're an amazing programmer, and heads off to you. As in, I think most of the people that so far, they would have failed at least once to get through that level 2 verification. And for me, it was invaluable to go through that process, as in my first M2 extension was back in while Magento 2 was still in the beta phase. So for me, having access to someone from Magento was, again, valuable in my learnings of the platform to get feedback of this quality to improve my own code. And that's what it's all about, really, as in we can always do better, and we have to strive to improve on ourselves. And the other thing which I would like to mention at this point is it is a human process, as in you are talking to another developer, and one of the items that was initially flagged, we had a discussion about the different approaches, and after we sort of highlighted what we're trying to achieve with it, that was found to be actually the best solution, and it did get the pass mark. So there is a human behind that process. So it's good to see that filtering through. And then I guess it's still early days. You were saying the top quality badge will only appear soon, and I think that's really something that I want to bring out there, that there's level 1, which is the baseline, but the gold standard is really level 2, and obviously people would like to have the gold standard. So if you're looking for that type of top-notch quality, look for a level 2 badge, and that's basically the best Marketplace has to offer in that regard.
Nice. Some questions?
Now, I was just going to bring up the point that you mentioned about the plagiarism. The last item that I had in my slide about the video, listing with the video, and the social proof. I think that should go a long way. If you're a serious player, you're solving a creative problem which is valued, by the community. If you have a video that kind of does justice to what it is that you built, the people can quickly go through. And after downloading, if you have solicited certain reviews and there is a social proof on Marketplace that this is what you built, people generally, and I've been in the industry, I know, if there's something out there and it's popular and there's social acceptance of it and people know about it, people think twice before plagiarizing it, versus there's something that's sold not really prominently in the marketplace, not more people know about it, then it becomes harder. So we are doing what we can with the checks, and we're going to make it automated and even invest more in it, and we are going to start different forums where people with the extensions, such as yourself, can notify us that, hey, I think, I would like to check the other app. And in the marketing review, if we feel like there's somebody who is doing that, we'll flag them and we'll build a separate queue and we'll go over those, extensions with another level of scrutiny. But I would invite and encourage every single one of you who are in Marketplace today to go build a video, go solicit reviews, and start to show up as someone who is very serious about being successful. And I think that should go a long way.
So here's your opportunity. What would you saw some things that we're working on with the roadmap. What would you like next, or what are some of your quick picks?
Sure, so some of that roadmap was new to me as well, so it's probably a little bit of an overlap there, but I think top of mind because to me the buying and installation process needs to be as effortless, as frictionless as humanly possible for especially the smaller merchants. And one way I see this evolving is to have the buying and installation process move straight into the Magento product, as you mentioned, and that basically you install it and you give a Magento credit card and it's installed. So moving into that direction and keep working towards that goal, that minimal friction, I think that'll be one of my top of mind picks. And obviously, one other thing is, and probably most of the developers that work as an agency were just saying, Christoph, what are you suggesting here? Work with developers at agencies, make it Marketplace a destination for them as well. So for example, in production mode, the web setup wizard is not needed, right? As in, if you have a process which is staging into production, then on production, you don't want the merchant even close to buying something, as in, there's a process for that, which is you come to us, we talk about what we install, and then we move it through that process. So, and then also, you guys are investing a lot of resources into this whole level 2 verification program. Make that work for agency developers as well. As in, there will always be the need for you guys to do your due diligence before you recommend something to a merchant and say, well, this is a product which we recommend that you buy to solve your business need. But part of that process is looking at the extension, and if every single agency developer is doing the same thing, then if you can offload that to Magento, that will save all of us, obviously and you, a lot of time, and will make the process for agency developers a lot easier. And I guess, the Marketplace, it really is just sugarcoating what is available as a Composer repository. So working with Composer is what you guys do anyway. So you evolving with the Marketplace. So I guess if any of you guys in the audience have feedback on, I'm working at an agency, how can we work with these guys would be all ears.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm working through our internal team to try to get connections as well. But I definitely want to have interactions. I've had a lot of interactions on the extension developer side, and on the merchant side, and I want to have more on the agency and the systems integrator or solution partner side. So that's totally agree with everything you said, and also that we really do need to think about that the full end to end, not just uploading and purchasing, but also making that installation process as smooth as we can. We've already in the last few weeks been kind of reconceptualizing and trying to simplify the installation process with our GUI, but also thinking about ways that we can surface the right information if you're not going to use our GUI at the right point, so that your process of installing via command line is easier or more intuitive. So totally in line with your recommendations there, and yeah, keep making them, please.
Yeah, and we want to hear this recommendation from each and everyone in this room and out there who are not in this room. So please make your comments heard. You know how to find us. Make yourself part of the developer council. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We cannot do the Q&A right now, but please find us. Happy to answer any and every question that you have. Yeah, let's keep the conversation going. Thank you very much.